Okay, so let's get into the snapshot review for Unit 8, Land Use and Planning and Control. So let's get into it. The first thing we talked about is real estate planning. The goals of land use controls is to preserve property values. I mean, really at the end of the day, that's of paramount interest. Promote the highest and best use. That's an important vocab phrase. Safeguard public health, safety and welfare. Control growth, incorporate community census. All right, consensus. Process through development plans, we create administration, and we authorize various controls. One of the pivotal sort of documents that guide us is the master plan, and we in some jurisdictions will call this the comprehensive plan. It's a long-term plan, and its usage strategies often required by state law. The local plans fuse municipal goals and needs with the state and regional laws. The planning objectives, what is the point of doing this? Is to control growth rates, how much growth will occur in and at what rate, control growth patterns, types of growth desired, when, where they should be located, accommodate demand for services and infrastructure. Now, the plan development, research trends and conditions, we blend local and state objectives into the master plan. Planning management. Commission is a sort of a ZBA or some kind of a commission, makes rules, approves permits, codes, and development plans. Now, there are public land use controls, state laws, local regulations, zoning, codes, public ownership, and private restrictions. We talked about public ownership with the potential of eminent domain and private restrictions with the potential of CC and Rs, which is covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Then we defined zoning, which is one of the police powers granted by state-level enabling acts. That was a vocab phrase where I absolutely think you need to memorize. Zoning ordinances create zones, usage restrictions, regulations, and requirements. What are some of the types of zones? We have residential zones, commercial zones, industrial zones, agricultural zones, public zones, and planned unit developments, or PUDs. Zoning Board of Adjustments or Board of Appeals oversees rule administrations and appeals. Non-conforming use, that is something you definitely want to know. If it's legal, if the use is prior to the zoning creation, and if it's illegal, you want to know the difference between the two. You'll see that inside of the chapter. And then what is a variance? This is something that is absolutely on real estate exams. Exceptions based on hardship, special exemptions based on public interest, amendments and change to zones, and rezoning. Then we talked briefly about subdivision regulations. A plat of subdivision and relevant requirements must meet and be approved. Sometimes, depending on what we're building, must meet the FHA, which is the Federal Housing Administration, requirements for insured financing. That's on the federal level. Building codes, comprehensive on-site and off-site construction and material standards must be met to receive a certificate of occupancy. That's something that I guarantee you're going to see on your exam. Public acquisitions and ownership, eminent domain, public powers to acquire property for public use. We talked briefly about the Kelo versus the City of New London. Then we looked at private land use controls, and that primarily is deed restrictions. Single property use restrictions as stipulated in the deed may not be discriminatory. They may not violate any public policy. Declaration restrictions, use restrictions in multiple property declarations enforced by court injunctions. And then there could be deed conditions instead of deed restrictions. And the usage restrictions can trigger repossession by the previous owner if violated. So they could be fee simple on a condition subsequent. Then we jumped into this world of environmental controls. Areas of concern that we are primarily worried about in the United States is air, soil, and water quality, ambient health hazards, and natural hazards. Some of the major legislations that we looked at limits the damage to environmental issues, standards for air, land, water, and material use. The responsibilities and liabilities, disclosure here in the world of real estate brokerage, and information for practitioners, remediation for owners, and lead disclosures. CERCLA, which is the Superfund law, exposes, and there are phase 1s, phase 2s, and phase 3s environmental site assessments, or ESAs, to detect and mitigate contamination. These are the standards that you typically see abridged on the exam. I would study this key point or snapshot review and then practice the quiz questions, and you should be good to go. I will see you in the next segment.